Welcome to Whose Story Is It?, where extraordinary lessons are hidden within everyday stories. Join us today in revealing the untold stories within a business leader's success. Enjoy as we uncover the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Whose Story Is It? Super excited today because I have someone I met many years ago. Very smart guy, like super smart, and now he lives abroad, lives across the water. So we'll have some great stories today. So thank you for listening, everyone that's out there. The three people, I really appreciate it. And you know what? Why don't you give us a little introduction?
Okay. Yeah, so keeping in tune with the content of this podcast, I'll reveal, I'll not reveal my company and the name. I'll just continue with where I was. A bit of background about myself. So I was born in India, studied till my bachelor's here. I worked for a couple of companies out here in India doing a lot of mechanical engineering type of work with new companies that worked with nuclear facilities and others. And then I did my master's in Michigan in mechanical engineering and worked for several years for a large automotive manufacturer, and then eventually switched to somebody that makes softwares for mechanical engineers. And that's somewhere I found my
Mhm.
passion, and then I kind of continued with it. About almost 4.5 years ago, I moved back to India and then started my own firm around the same thing.
Awesome. And you are in a town where your family grew up.
Yes, so I am currently in a city called as Kolhapur. That's Western India. So it's in a state called as Maharashtra, which is sort of Mumbai is the capital of Maharashtra, and I am almost I would say 500 kilometers south of Mumbai.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gives us an idea. It gives us an idea where you are in the world.
Yes.
Well, thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And good to catch up. It's
Thank
been
you for
uh, it's been
inviting me.
been a few
Yes.
minutes since we saw each other.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you. The opening question is, how did you earn your first dollar that wasn't from a relative?
Oh. uh, Very interesting. Let me think. So, funny story. So, my dad my mom actually owned a mango farm, so horticulture land. That's my
Okay.
first distinct memory of earning something. So, I had so my routine work used to be like every in the during the vacation, like during holidays, every morning I and my cousin, we were like really close cousins, so we used to
Sure.
spend our vacations together. So every morning, like around 7 o'clock, we used to wake up, and him and I would essentially, my dad would send us both to uh, actually climb up the cashew trees and collect all of the cashew nuts, right?
Okay.
And then mangoes as well around that. So every vacation we used to do that. Like every morning we would do it for 2 hours, then 2 hours, then come home, get some breakfast, go to the
Sure.
river, swim for another 2 hours, come back home, spend playing a lot of time
Yeah.
playing, and then the
Yeah.
evening again go to the farm, collect some cashew nuts and all of that. Right.
That's
So
great.
that's how our vacations went, literally. We
And
had a lot
and
of fun. Yeah.
what was the first time you were getting paid not by
Yeah,
your
right.
relatives?
So then one fine day, actually, we got some mangoes down, and my father was now go and sell it out. So essentially, I sat on the street in front of
Oh, there you
our
go.
farm, and within no time, like a car
Sure.
stopped by, and they took the entire bowl full of mangoes and paid me my first dollar. So that's how I earned first time I earned money.
That's
It was
great.
very
That's awesome. You just I did the same thing when I was a kid. When I lived in Kansas, and we had a vegetables stand right
right.
along the street. So we so I basically I helped my mom sell vegetables to just to people walking,
Right.
walking, driving by. So yeah, it was really fun. I quite enjoyed that my job there. I was the
Yes.
cashier. I was the cashier. So yeah, it was
Great.
fun. What in your in your day to day, what's the part of the day that you enjoy the most? And you're kind of let's just say you're, if it's a perfect day, what's that
Mhm.
day look like to you?
Oh God. Okay, let me think about it. Uh, I think uh, the best is when I've solved a problem for a customer, right, and they're happy about it. That's a really good day. Like when they're really happy about either myself or my team has delivered something that they absolutely love, and we meet and exceed their expectations. That's a really good day for me.
Yeah,
The
that's
whole,
cool.
yeah.
And if you include, when I say day, it's your personal part of your day as well as your business day. What's that look
Um,
like to you if you include personal parts?
well, okay. So personal. If we talk about personal part, I think the best thing that has happened to me is my son. Right, like
Sure.
yeah, so I think I enjoy a lot playing, spending time with him. He's very naughty, 4 years, 4.5 year old.
Yeah.
Going out on strolls with my wife and him, that's a really nice part of the day. Like it's great. Uh, all the all the fuss and tantrums and all of it is still fine. I love all of that part.
That's good. That's good.
Yes.
And in the, if you look back at the last, say 5 years, it's
Mhm.
2024. So yeah, so say 5, 6 years ago, what have you learned the last 5 or 6 years that was learned by a mistake? Like what mistake really kind of sticks out in your mind? Like, well, I really learned a lot from this mistake.
Well, so let me think a bit about it. I think um, so. One of the things that I really stick to is sort of a bit of physics principle, right? Like wherein if I want to achieve something, I have this concept of velocity, wherein you need some speed, right? Where you are traveling some distance at a given time, and then you need a direction, right? So all the time, all the while, just having good speed isn't enough, and just having good direction isn't enough. You have to consistently go with the good velocity to get to somewhere, and that's what has been my motto. So all the while, like what I've learned from all my mistakes is your direction keeps on getting updated, right? But as long as you have some speed to it and you know the general direction, like where you are heading towards, there are not a lot of mistakes. Like you eventually get there, right?
Mhm.
And that has been a good learning for me. And then persistence all the time, like
Oh,
this,
persistence. Yeah.
yeah, there's no doubt to it.
Yeah. You've got to have that to kind of make it
Correct.
all work, right? Just
Yes.
keep somewhat keep showing up, right? You got to
Yes.
keep showing up, and good things will happen.
Yes.
Hey, if you could change anything in anything about the way you were raised as a kid, what
Mhm.
would you change, if anything?
Yes. So I think there's one thing that I can definitely say, right? Uh, India is it's a bit conservative society, right? So it's
Mm,
not a very uh, risk-taking type of culture.
yeah.
And my father was a government servant, so he
Oh,
always worked for the government as a medical officer. So uh, the, I had no business background as such, right? So I'm
sure.
sort of the first person that I have close relative of mine who is a businessman, right?
Hmm.
So that didn't give a lot of business background to me, and we as a culture are not very risk taking. So if I could change something about my childhood, that would be like some way to really start taking risks even sooner than I did, right?
Yeah.
That would be really awesome, actually.
Oh,
And I
that's good.
see
Yeah.
I see 25-year old and 21-year olds who jump into things and do some nice things today. So that I feel like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah, yeah, no, that is. Yeah, it's just it's funny because I've met and worked with many Indian people over the
Mhm.
years, lots and lots and lots, and that is a thing. Traditionally they're very conservative, right?
Right.
They don't take risks. They don't kind of go outside of the box, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is very very true. That's good insights. It's funny. That's something I never really thought about that, but it's absolutely true. Like that is for sure happening, right? That's.
Yeah.
Do you think it's changing though? Do you think that's changing in the world?
Yes, it is actually. I meet with so there's very interesting. I recently talked to a very young entrepreneur. Somehow that we have the same client, and he reached out to me that, hey, how is it going? And we started talking. And
Sure.
he's just there, bunch of four college graduates out of college, and then I was like, okay, how did you guys? And they've been in business for around 3 4 years or something like that, right after college. And I was like, yeah, how did you decide to that you wanted to get into this? So he was like, yeah, I calculated the salary of a fresher, right? Then economics just didn't work out. I was like, I'll get that money anyhow. So I wanted to jump into business, and it was very clear to me. I was like, great, man. This is something
Yeah.
that I would like to hear. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No.
it's
No.
changing definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. No. It is just like you say. The generations are kind of forcing that to happen, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, is there something, and this kind of goes along with that kind of thought, is there something you've dreamed of over the last 5, 10, 15 years that you didn't do, you like, or haven't done, or just keep ignoring? Is there like something in you like, I always wanted to do, you know, is there something that you dreamed of and just ignored?
Well, I always wanted to learn flying. That is
Learn
something that
what?
is flying aeroplanes,
Oh,
and that's
flying. Oh, okay, sure.
yeah, that's still something that I wanted to do it when I was in US. Like I wanted to join a school and do it, but I just kind of ignored. And now I recently read in the news that there's someone who is trying to teach in our hometown, so maybe I'll pick that up again.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
something that I
That's something
ignored.
you've always wanted. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's funny how we, it. I have like that. I've always wanted to learn how to play the piano,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I'm not musically inclined, but I've always wanted to learn how to play the piano. And actually, one year, my wife actually bought me lessons, and I took some lessons, and then I just never kind of followed up with it because it's something I've always wanted to do, but it's hard. I've never like committed to doing it, right? You
Yeah.
know. So, but it's still on my list. I'd still love to learn how to play the piano, right? That's still a thing, right?
Right.
Um, Tell me, here's a complete 180-degree, wholly different question. Tell me the most terrible memory that you have.
The most terrible memory that I have.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like, what's the worst thing that's happened to you, at least you know, in your opinion, obviously?
Worst thing that has happened to me. Really, not a lot that I can say. Like, it's basically one of the only things that I can remember that was really hard at that time. Uh, was essentially my sister had a very, like, she got viral encephalitis, and the doctor
Oh,
essentially said that there's a 33% chance she would survive, and then miraculously she did. But I was in 10th grade at that time, and that was a scarring moment for me. Actually, it was sort of good and bad, because until then I was not a very I was not a studious child. It kind of changed things around for me actually in my life.
Oh, really? It kind of it motivated you.
Yeah, it did. Like it made me serious a bit. Like it sort of made me a adult than a little bit sooner than I would have actually.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah.
You know, we most of us do that.
Right.
What you know in friendship with your friends, what do you
Mhm.
value the most as like in a friendship? Like, what do you value? And if you and I were great friends, what would you say the value is for you? Like, what do you value the most in a friendship?
So see, I feel friend is one of the relations which is very pure, right? It's the relation which is very pure, in my opinion, because there are no expectations as such, right? Like
Yeah.
you're just you have like for every other relationship, right? You're some way you're responsible for something, right?
Hmm.
In friendship, it's because just because you gel together, you like someone, and then you get together. There is no obligation. There's nothing, right? So it's friendship is very pure. It's not a lot of give and take. Whatever you do, it's okay, right?
Hmm.
Nobody's expecting something from you. So being there, right? Being there is very important for me in a friendship, right? That you're there because it's just because of you I'm your friend. It's not
Yeah,
because you give me something or I expect something. That's not why I'm your friend. So I think
that's good.
it's
So it's more about the the you have no expectations of what I'm supposed to do or not supposed to do, right? Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
right, more or less. And then I think it's sort of like uh, unconditional, a bit more
Oh, there.
unconditional, right? Like you're
Yeah,
not expecting something.
yeah,
Uh,
that's better. That's a better word.
right,
Unconditional,
yeah,
unconditional relationship, like you say. You,
right.
yeah,
So you're there because you're there, and then I spend time you because I like you, right?
yeah,
And then we are sort of what do you say? In your suffering, I'm there. In your good moments, I'm there.
yeah,
But I'm there just because I want to be part of it. It's not
yeah,
because I'm obliged to do something.
yeah. There's no obligations, right? That's a like. There's no, yeah. There's no obligations that you, yeah, yeah. It is. It's like, you always say that pets have unconditional love, right? Pets,
Right.
cats and
Correct.
dogs, they don't care, they
Right.
don't care what your mood is. They still like you, right? That's the same concept, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. Um, if here's kind of a weird question. I like this. If your house
Mm-hmm.
caught on fire,
Mm-hmm.
right, today, and
Okay.
you're out, and you were out, or excuse me, you're inside.
Okay.
Once you got everything outside, meaning the people, right? Because
Okay.
that's the most important thing. Once you got all
Right.
the people out of the burning house, what is the one thing you would go back in and get?
Books.
Books. What
Yes.
books? What books would you do?
Well, so I have been an avid book lover from the beginning. So I don't know, like, so it's not one book. Like, I just love books. So
Books
what
in
I
general.
would, yeah, books in general, like, I have a lot of books, and that's the only thing probably I'll run to get after I get people and documents out. Okay, let's get some books out.
Let's get some books. Let's
Yeah.
get some books. Is there a section of your book collection that you would go for first?
Oh. Section of, yeah, I think it's been mostly self-help books or stuff like that, like
Okay.
motivational books and all of that, because
Yeah.
other things you probably don't care a lot. Like, I mean, you get knowledge of other books on the internet everywhere.
Yeah.
Some of the books that make a difference to you, you would probably try and get
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
first.
Like I'm trying to think of self help, but like Think and Grow Rich is a
Yeah,
very very famous self help book,
yes,
right? Yeah, Think and Grow
that's a
Rich
good
is,
one. Yes.
yeah, yeah, very 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 popular. Um, Hey, if we met a year from now, it looks like you went away. Do you're dark? You got really dark. Did some light go change something in your room?
No, not really. I'm
Oh,
nothing
oh, there you
changed
go.
on my.
Oh, there it's back. Now you're back to normal. You got really dark
Okay.
there for a second. Um, if there was a if we let's say we talked a year from now, one year from now,
Hmm?
what would you like to be celebrating 1 year from now?
$1 million in revenue for my company.
Okay, there you go. Well, that's a good, that'd be a good milestone, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's funny. It's funny how we talk about that. Like, that $1 million is always kind of a number most people like. That's like, if it's not the first milestone, it's one of the early milestones, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so $1 million is a good, it's a good start, right? It's a good start.
Mhm.
So yeah, at least believe that you've started to get something going if you've gotten $1 million, right? Because you're basically doing 80 grand ish a month kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, no, that's interesting. That's Frank, my cat. So um,
Okay.
yeah, he's a he's a fixture of all podcasts. Um,
Great to see you. Hi, friend.
yeah, exactly. Um, here's a written. Now this is going to make you think.
Mhm.
What have you said yes to in the last 2, 3 years that you used to always say no to?
uh, Talking a lot with strangers.
Oh, really?
Yes. So think of an engineer, right? Then a
Yeah,
programmer for last 3 years, and then
yeah,
how easily would you change yourself to start conversing freely with strangers, right? And that is not like I would do it, but it is not very often. Now it's like,
sure.
yeah. So as my quote says, like conversations lead to convergence. So now I am
Yeah,
always conversing with someone or something.
that's great. What do you still do you if you walk into like a networking event where there's just a bunch of people you don't know, um, one, do you walk into that room with anxiety, or do you walk in the how do you walk in that room now today versus say 3 years ago?
It's changing, to be honest
Yeah,
with you. Like, yeah, 3 years ago, I would be like, okay, what am I doing here, right? And then, who do I know, sort of, all of that, right?
sure.
And now it's like, hey, I would get to meet all of these cool people, probably get to learn a bit, right? And maybe get something for us as a company, right? But that's
Yeah,
the last. But I think it's more about what can I learn today.
good for you. That's very good. Yeah, I'm complete. I've always been the guy who loves meeting new people. Right. That's, as you know, I enjoy that part of
Right.
life. But I mean, many of my friends, including my wife, is not a huge fan of walking into a room that she doesn't know people. Right. So
Right.
it's a very common thing that we have anxiety around, is you know
Yeah.
meeting new people, and actually being in an environment where we don't know anyone is also very, it makes a lot of people have a lot of anxiety
Mhm.
around that. Um, today, in today's kind of, if you look at yourself today, what are you most confident today about yourself?
Uh, I think one of the strongest things I feel in last 5 years that I feel very confident, or you could say a bit proud as about myself, is that I've been able to build a good team, right?
Hmm.
So I love the people on my team, and fortunately, they also are a good group that gels together well, right? And work towards objectives, it's been a great team actually. So I'm very happy about that. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I could build a good team.
How did you do that? Like what like what have you learned? Obviously, you've learned some things over the years to be able to do that. That would be what my first question is, like, how do you do that? Why are you how do you have the ability to build a good team? Like, what are the factors that, like, you would say, I can build a good team because of XYZ? Like, what are the
So
things
I
you've
think,
learned to?
yeah, so I would answer that question basically with saying that it's transparency, like full transparency, right? So I always what I do with my teams is I'm authentic, like this is who I am, right?
Mm,
This is what I'm aspiring towards. This is where we are trying to get to, right? And this is exactly what we are. So. I am completely transparent in regards to all aspects of the business, all aspects of what my current thinking is, where I feel like we are doing good, where I feel like I am lacking, our team is lacking. So it's
yeah, yeah,
been complete transparency, right? And that I believe that over a period of time, I think what it does is it makes them a part of it, right? It makes them feel like, okay, we are a part of this. And that actually, what oftentimes happens is I have to tell people, hey, now don't work anymore. You're working way too much, right?
yeah.
Or it's not expected. And that only happens when you involve them. And true involvement comes when you're authentic and you're really transparent and inviting them to be a part of the journey is my is how I would
And so
answer it.
in that, transparency obviously is coming across. Like, how is that a learned skill for you, or is that just something you? Is it something you picked up because of this? Is it something that you didn't know you had, or is it something you read that says, "Hey, I need to be more like"? Where did that come from? The
Uh,
transparency piece.
so I think there are one is it's probably who I am, right? Really. So it was not a picked skill, but I didn't know the importance of it in team building because I had
Oh,
never built teams from ground up, right?
sure.
Before I started my business. But then when I started building it, and then when I started talking to folks, uh, this is what I think even the senior most guys enjoy about it. Like, hey, this guy is being genuine, authentic, and he's really trying to do. And then the second part that I feel like I'd heard a lecture about Gandhi, and I should have probably talked about this that value as well. So there was a when I was in college, there was a 10-day seminar on Mahatma Gandhi in my college
Oh,
town,
sure.
and I attended that 10-day, and it was actually narrated by the son of Gandhiji's secretary, right? So he has been very close to that action when, and the guy who was orating it was very old at that time, maybe past his 80s. He was telling
Oh,
the story like it was straight from the horse's mouth, right?
sure.
And he was actually one of the things that he told about that is uh, they did a survey, and they did a survey across the world, like what would you like to see in your leader, right? And then one thing that stood out is people want leaders who walk their talk, right? Who
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
do what they say what they do, and that I think has helped me in building my team.
yeah.
It's another one.
Yeah, I know that helps. Well, a lot of that has to do with having the knowledge to do that, right? Like, you actually understand, um, you understand what's happening around you, right? I call it self awareness, because all the years that I've been doing what I do and starting companies, and basically now in the last 6 years, all I've done is consulting with people, and the thing that I think is the most critical, because I always work with the CEO, right? I'm always talking with the CEO, and so
Right.
what I've learned is the good CEOs have really great self awareness. They know their faults, they know their strengths, they know how they come across, they know all those things about themselves. And the bad CEOs, which honestly I've met several,
Mhm.
they have no clue about how they affect people. They have no clue about, like, how they come across. They have no clue on how their responses may seem like short, or maybe seem like full of, crap, or, that all these things is just self-awareness. It's like, do you know how people actually think when you're like, that piece
Yeah.
is really the that piece, right? It's that thing that creates the ability for me to get behind your idea and or your vision,
Right.
when I know that you're the transparency is, are you telling me the truth, right? Of course,
Right.
that's the thing. Like, okay, I get he seems like he's telling me the truth. She seems like she's telling me the truth. And then the other part is, do you know how to communicate that, and do you understand how your just presence affects people, right? And that's actually some not something easy, the presence part, because as a CEO, especially a first time CEO, you may not understand how people somewhat put you on a pedestal. They believe things that you may not even believe about yourself, right? And many times you don't. Um, and that's the thing, that's something you have to get used to. Like, you can't say certain things because you don't realize, like, holy crap, they're actually listen to every word I say,
Right.
right? And sometimes you're just like, it's just it is something that you have to learn. It's, at least I did over the years. I had to learn that trait. Like, I had to
Yeah.
realize what I could not and could say, and like realizing that people were watching me, so to speak. You know,
Yes.
it's
Yeah, that
it
is
is
true. I think part of that is being empathetic, right? Like where you're actually,
empathetic. Yeah,
yeah, you're actually sort of before communicating to anyone, you're also thinking in your mind like what would they perceive it as, and that's fairly important. So
yeah.
it doesn't usually change what you say. It would rather change how you say it more.
Yeah, well, see, that's the good part. What you just said. It's not necessarily, the message probably doesn't change, but
Right.
it's how you deliver the message.
Right. That should change. Yes. Depending on
Should
the
change,
situation.
exactly.
Yes.
It should fit the audience, right? Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Well, I think that's a like. Um, Tell us who you are. Give us the full meal deal. Give us the introduction. Let us know who you are. It's been great chatting with you thus far. So, give me the full deal.
Okay. All right. So I'm Ratnadeep Mukkirwar. I'm the CEO and founder of Optelix Private Limited. So I'm
And
a
so tell us the website name, because that's always a like, tell us the website name so we could
It
go to
is
that.
www.optelix.com.
Optelix.
Yeah. So we essentially are a company that does a lot of work in 3D application development services. So we provide 3D application development services for various companies. So the we are uh, we are completely super focused on 3D, everything in 3D really. So we work on 3D applications on desktop, on mobiles, in AR VR devices, so all of that. We work with several companies like independent software manufacturers, gas, oil and gas industry. We work with automotive industries. We work with industries across sectors, creating applications in mainly in engineering domain, but also in sales and marketing and other all kinds of domains, public works, etc. But which are purely focused on 3D.
3D. So Rather Deep, how did you, like, where'd that come from? Like, where did that piece? That's a pretty niche. Like, you gotta know something before you start that kind of a
Right.
project. So, like, where'd you get the knowledge to do, or what was the inspiration to do that kind of thing? Like I said, that's a pretty niche,
Yes.
business. So,
Yeah, so one of the things when I grew up, I loved everything about physics and mathematics, right? And
mhm.
then when I chose engineering, I primarily chose because hey, this will help me do something in physics and mathematics, and then also be hands-on, right? I just didn't want it to sit behind books and do it. But then eventually, as I became mechanical engineer, I realized that hey, if I had to do something of my own, setting up a mechanical engineering factory is very cost intensive, right? And it
Yep.
takes a lot of money to do that. So, what's the next best thing that I can build with my hands and using my knowledge? So then I thought, hey, computers are the thing where I could do something very quickly and then fail and reiterate and do all of that stuff over again, right? And then the combination of mechanical engineering and computers always gravitated me. So eventually, as one of the jobs after my college, I started working for a company named Geometric, wherein I started with some of these 3D engineering, like 3D software development knowledge, right?
Hmm.
I worked on using APIs of SolidWorks, one of the softwares, and building
Oh, sure.
applications.
SolidWorks. Yeah. Yeah. With products, with any kind of, anyone's built a, like a physical product has to, not anyone, but many people have worked with SolidWorks because of that. Yeah.
Right, right. So I started building applications using SolidWorks APIs, and then eventually I did my masters, and that also I worked for a professor doing some of that. And then eventually I sort of went into mechanical engineering company for a bit, but I prepared my resume and when I was in college and circulated it to a bunch of agencies, and one of them 3 years later gave me a call. Hey, I saw this particular skill on your resume. Are you interested? There is this very good job, and I would like to give you an interview. And then I went through the round and worked. It was a full day interview, right? And then
Sure.
they selected me, and then I worked there and sort of polished my knowledge, got into a bit of leadership role as well, and then eventually when I came back to India, I was like, okay, and they stayed on as a first client with me
Oh, good.
for
Yeah.
our company, so that sort of helped us out, and then now we are increasing our clients every
That's
year.
great.
Yeah.
Good for you. And what do you think is a, like for you, where you are today over the last 3 years, because it's, basically been 3, 4 years, how long you've been started here. What
Mhm.
has anything changed in the way that you think about your business, or like what's changed for you from 4 years ago to today about how you run, or maybe how you think about your business?
Yeah, I think so. As a tech person, right, you always are like, hey, what's the coolest thing? And you always feel like,
Sure.
okay, where there is good technology, there is good business.
Yeah.
But over the last 3 and 4 years, what I've realized is a lot of businesses doing the same boring things in a better manner, or business is not always in the shiniest and the newest tech that is out there, right? It is in
Yeah.
the customer workflow, understanding the customer needs, and it could be something that was invested 30 years ago, but as long as you're able to do it in a good manner and satisfy customers expectations and needs, you still would do a good business, right? It doesn't always have to be a shiny thing, but it has to be something. So my focus has shifted quite a bit from technology, from 3 years to now understanding more of the customer needs and uh, workflows and where they're getting affected. So that
Yeah.
definitely has
Yeah.
changed.
That's good. Yeah. It's like, it's now you're working on the business, right? The business
Right.
part of the business, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because the technologies, that's what you do, but that's not actually the business, right? Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's something you learn over time, and you actually learn the importance of it over time.
Yes.
So it becomes more important. Well, hey, it's been wonderful to spend some time with you today. I really appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day, and I guess it's actually out of your night there, but. Yeah, it's been great. So, is there anything you'd like to share? One thing before we sign off?
I think I would just really thank you. Like I met you in Startup Grind many years ago, and I think I was just one of the participants, and we connected, and you kind of reached back out. I really appreciate that. We met in Startup Grind Seattle, and I think you were probably one of the chairs or hosts there, right? Something like that. I don't remember. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been so long ago. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think it was 2016 or 17.
yeah,
I really appreciate what you've done for community as a part of Startup Grind, and now
yeah,
whatever you're doing with this podcast and other things.
yeah.
Great work.
Yeah,
Thank you
no,
very
no,
much.
thank you. Yeah, it's fun. This is obviously I enjoy the heck out of this. So, it's a lot of fun. Well, again, thank you for taking the time today. I do appreciate that. Thanks for sharing your insights. the best and best of luck to you. Keep hacking away at it. Keep learning all the other stuff. Most of the time, it's going to work out. So again, it's been a pleasure. Until next time, take care. Be safe. Well, that's a wrap on another episode of Whose Story Is It? We grow our audience mostly through friends sharing with friends. So please share this with a friend you care about. And of course, share it on your social media. We love that. Also, if you think listening to the podcast was entertaining and valuable, then please subscribe to next week's episode. So keep moving it forward and join us next time as we continue to uncover the extraordinary in the ordinary. Have an amazing day.